Hey everyone, how's it going? My name is Casper, and in this video, I'm going to be doing the astrology chart of JK Rowling. Um, I don't know why people say Rowling. I feel like it's rolling because it's like row, row, row your boat. Okay, she was born July 31st, 1965, 9:10 p.m. in Yate, England. Um, on Astrodionist, this birth time got a Rodden rating of C. So some kind of article or another astrologer said that this was her official time. So this isn't perfect information. Her ascendant could be Aquarius. Hold on, Yeah, her ascendant could be Aquarius. Um, which I don't know. I guess that kind of works. I actually thought her ascendant might have been Cancer because if it was Cancer, it would have put this Virgo stellium in the third house. But yeah, we're just gonna go with this chart and see. Okay, so the first thing I want to start with for her chart is that she has this giant shipload of Virgo placements in her eighth house. um, she has a Virgo stellium. I mean, she has her Mercury in Virgo, her Venus in Virgo, her Uranus in Virgo, her Pluto in Virgo, her Moon in Virgo. I mean, it's nuts. She has five planets in Virgo, which is huge. And I think it makes a lot of sense and is super interesting because JK Rowling is a writer. And writers tend to have placements in Virgo. Why is that? It's because Virgo is a very analytical and logical sign. Virgo is ruled by the sign Mercury. Mercury also rules over Gemini. So if you think about Gemini, Geminis love to talk. They love to go on and on. They like to spill out information. They like to just say everything that's on their mind. Virgo, being the other side of Mercury, being like the darker half of Mercury, the feminine side of Mercury, Virgo likes to take information and analyze it, break it down, synthesize it, make sense, edit it, which is very typical for writers. Writers are the kinds of people that refine language. So Geminis believe in language. Virgos like to refine language and make sense with it. So um, JK Rowling, it's very fitting that she became a writer because all of this Virgo energy is basically making her want to be an analytical and logical person, to break things down, to make ideas beautiful, to communicate something, but to communicate it in a way that is refined and makes sense. I remember listening to her in an interview, and she was like, I've always wanted to be a writer ever since I knew how to write. So it was kind of faded, and the thing is about J.K. Rowling, I feel like I'm not going to be able to say too much about her because she has all of these planets in Virgo. It kind of just like even though her sun is in Leo and her ascendant is in Aquarius, she's pretty much a Virgo person. She's very Virgo. She she represents the archetype of Virgo because so much of her energy is being channeled in to the Virgo sign in her chart. And again, and it makes a lot of sense as a writer. So, one thing that really stands out that is super fascinating about her chart, and I think is the most interesting, is that her Mercury is conjunct Regulus, which is a fixed star. Now, you can't see it on this chart, but there is a fixed star in the sky that is at 0 degrees of Virgo. And in 2012, before 2012, it was at 29 degrees of Leo. So this fixed star moves really, really slowly. And it just barely moved into Virgo. And it's going to be in Virgo for a very long time. And this fixed star, people who have personal planets or placements conjunct this fixed star tend to be extremely famous. They get riches and wealth. They rise to prominence. They become great leaders. And it's flavored based on the kind of planet that is conjunct this fixed star. So, for example, the richest man in the world right now has his ascendant conjunct Regulus. He's like the owner of Gucci or something. So that makes a lot of sense, right? The richest man has his ascendant conjunct the kingly star Regulus. Donald Trump has his ascendant conjunct Regulus, and he became the president of the United States, probably one of the most interesting presidents of the United States. Um, and in this case, JK Rowling, she doesn't have her ascendant conjunct Regulus, but she has her Mercury conjunct Regulus. And Mercury is the planet of writing and communication, which isn't that so interesting? How did J.K. Rowling rise to prominence and fame? With writing, with communication, technically writing, right? Because she wrote the great Harry Potter series, which it's probably one of the greatest and most successful series ever written in history, right? That would make a lot of sense for someone who has their Mercury conjunct Regulus, which isn't that so fascinating? I think that's, man, this is the kind of stuff that really makes me believe in astrology. And even this Mercury on its own without Regulus, I mean, this Mercury in Virgo is not only exalted but domicile. Like people who have Mercury in Virgo are incredibly sharp. They're very intelligent. They're very they're just very smart people. And so like again, she has her Venus in Virgo, Uranus in Virgo, Pluto in Virgo, Moon in Virgo. People who have Moon in Virgo, this is right, this is their inner selves. They find comfort in analyzing things. They tend to have anxiety. They tend to worry a lot, but they're also very smart and they're also very clear, right? Again, Virgo is all about analyzing and synthesizing. So these people take great comfort in in writing and mapping things out and being skeptical. They're very skeptical, and this probably plays into why JK Rowling is so critical of the transgender movement. I don't really know much about it, frankly. Even though I'm interested in philosophy and politics, that really hasn't interested me that much. I feel like both feminists and transgender people take their female identity way too seriously and they just need to relax about that. But I also just want to add that Virgo is a very feminine sign. I mean, it's represented by the maiden who is pure and like the Virgin Maiden, almost like the Virgin Mary or something. So I can see why J.K. Rowling is so defensive of her female identity because she very much embodies and feels this Virgo energy, this pure, feminine, female energy. And so when she sees other people who are not nearly as feminine as she feels and is, she can get very defensive about that. People who have placements in Virgo, they tend to be very critical. They tend to be very like no nonsense. Like if something doesn't make sense to me, then I'm going to put my foot down and disagree with it. Because that's how Virgos are. Virgos are very skeptical, but they're also very clear and very thoughtful at the same time, which you can definitely see that with J.K. Rowling. So all of these planets in Virgo are being channeled into this Mercury in Virgo conjunct Regulus because Mercury rules over Virgo, and that Mercury again is just being put in a leadership position with it conjunct Regulus, which explains, I know I said this, but it explains why she wrote one of the greatest series ever written. And the other thing that really is kind of interesting is that she has the sun in Leo. I also have a moon in Virgo. I also have a sun in Leo. And it kind of stands out a little bit, right? Because, you know, J.K. Rowling seems more kind of quiet, more subdued, right? She's a writer, so she's introverted, she works alone. So this sun in Leo kind of sticks out a little bit because Leo sun people, they tend to be very creative. They like to be outgoing. They like to do a lot of fun things. They're right. Leo is about it's about me, and I'm just super awesome. Like I'm a Leo. I like to have fun and just be creative. And I think you do see that creative side in J.K. Rowling and the fact that she wrote the Harry Potter series. I mean, the thing is, if you just have Virgo placements, you tend to just be a writer. You tend to just analyze things, right? You would be like an accountant or a financial expert, or you'd write scientific papers or something, right? Very Virgo, very boring, but extremely necessary. But if you have some Leo placements, especially if you have that Mercury conjunct Regulus, you tend to be much more creative with your writing. Or it would make sense you'd write a series of fantasy. You'd write a fantasy series. So that makes a lot of sense. The other thing that is super fascinating about this Leo sun, even though it sticks out separately from her Virgo placements, um, Leo Leo energy is very similar to the Gryffindor house in Harry Potter, right? Because Gryffindor, what does that sound like? It sounds like Leo, which is the lion. Gryffindor and lions have that same kind of royal energy, right? Very royal, very Regulus as well, right? Gryffindor, Leo, Regulus, they'd all be in the same animal camp. Bravery, bold, warm hearted, virtuous leaders, right? That's Gryffindor house. And I think JK Rowling gave Harry Potter the same birthday as hers, which would give Harry Potter also he would also be a Leo, and that makes a lot of sense because he's famous. He's naturally famous. He's a leader. He leads people. He's a hero. Leo sun people and Leo energy is main character energy. It's chosen one energy. These are people who really are the center of their own universe and live for themselves and lead people to new places. And they're very courageous and strong. So that makes a lot of sense. Like she's expressing her Leo energy through her Harry Potter character. And you know what's also so hilarious? Um, Voldemort has his birthday December 31st, which would make Voldemort a Capricorn. And Capricorns are the goats, right? They're the old goats who care about money, wealth, status, power. I mean Voldemort is your very stereotypical Capricorn in that respect. I'm not saying Capricorns are evil people. I mean Capricorns can be great people, but Capricorns tend to focus a lot on these external things, right? They're kind of like these nerdy, power hungry people. So I just think that's so funny. I think that's very interesting. Um, so yeah, so Gryffindor house matches that Leo sun. Even though I think JK Rowling said her favorite house was Hufflepuff. I think she was saying that to be nice. Everyone makes fun of Hufflepuff. Hufflepuff is the funny house. Like it's the weak people, right? Ravenclaw is the smart people. Slytherins pursue power because they're cool and mysterious, and then Leos or Gryffindor house are the bold and the courageous. So that's pretty much it about J.K. Rowling's chart. I mean, there's not like you can't say too much because she has all of these placements in Virgo. So you can only say, yeah, I'm a Virgo. Like the only thing you can really say about her is like, yeah, she's a Virgo. Look how Virgo she is. She's a writer. That's very Virgo to be a writer. And okay, there's her chart. Time to go now. She does have this Jupiter in Gemini, right? So again, Gemini is ruled by Mercury, and Jupiter is making a square to her moon in Virgo. So Gemini is very much about spilling ideas out, while Virgo is very much about analyzing ideas. So if you have a square between these two signs, you're very good at coming up with ideas and throwing out bad ideas. You generate a lot of ideas and then you try to weed them down to get to the good ones. So that's what a square between Gemini and Virgo means. She also has this opposition between Saturn and her Pluto in Virgo, her Uranus in Virgo, maybe her Venus, maybe her Mercury, but it's mostly getting those two planets in the center. And her Saturn is in the second house conjunct Chiron. So there was this phase in J.K. Rowling's life where she was poor, actually. She didn't have any money. She was on welfare. She was raising a child at the same time while writing her book. And I think that Saturn in the second house, especially in Pisces, right? Saturn and Pisces can be very depressing. It's a very depressing placement, um, because Pisces tends to be very emotional and very spiritual. But if you have Saturn here, like all of your spirituality is kind of like empty, or you're trying to find that spirit. You're trying to find that spiritual energy to keep going, or your spirituality is taken away from you. And then it's also conjunct Chiron, which is like your wounds and like what you struggle with. And so these two planets in the second house is the house of money. It's the house of self esteem. So like I think J.K. Rowling for a big portion of her life felt like she didn't know how to make money. She wasn't good at making money. She had a poor self-esteem. But this opposition, right? All of these Virgo placements are basically saying you can write. These planets in the eighth house opposite the second house. And it's kind of interesting, like maybe her ascendant is different because it's weird that all of these Virgo placements are in the eighth house, because the eighth house is the house of debt. It's the house of death. It's the house of um it's also the house of money, but other people's money and inheritance. But like J.K. Rowling didn't inherit anything. She didn't she but she does seem to think a lot about death though. Like her villain Voldemort was very afraid of death. Had a lot to do with death. I mean, the whole Harry Potter series had a lot to do with this idea of transformation and death. Because like, Harry Potter in the second book, he went underground. He went under the castle. He had to fight snakes. Snakes have a lot to do with transformation, death, and rebirth, right? Because the snake is like a literal cycle, the way it eats itself, but also because snakes shed their skin. And of course, there's like, she created a whole separate house from Gryffindor called Slytherin, which is all about that transformational energy. So maybe all of these eighth house planets, not only does it make her a writer, but she's very thoughtful when it comes to death. She's very thoughtful when she looks underneath. And maybe that's why her Harry Potter series was so popular, because she touched on topics and ideas that are deep. Like it's very deep when you really think about it. I mean, she talks about magic and mystery, the occult, death. Her again, I know I've said death a lot, but Voldemort deals a lot with death. Harry Potter came back from the death. She in the Deathly Hallows, there's the cloak, the wand, and the stone, which is put them together, and it's the Master of Death. So it makes a lot of sense that she has a lot of planets in the eighth house, because the eighth house is the house of death. So that would make a lot of sense. She would write about death on some level. Um, and so anyway, this opposition is kind of like helping her balance between like how do I make money and keep doing and writing. Like it's almost like her writing like put her in debt, but her writing also is what gave her billions of dollars. Like she's the first billionaire writer, probably the only billionaire writer. So that would make a lot of sense. That opposition right there. She struggled a lot in the beginning, and then she made a lot of money afterwards. And then, yeah, I think that's pretty much it about her chart. I'll see you later.